All right, guys, so if you guys watched the last video, we did a single stick routine that we do for Anastacio. All of our classes use it as a warm-up. So I thought I'd switch it up and we're gonna go empty hand now. So there's quite a bit of differences. We borrow a lot from the jiu-jitsu influence and we've incorporated that into our setup here. So let me guide you through it. Let's go rep for rep with each other. First and foremost, we do a lot of footwork. It doesn't have to necessarily be like this when you apply it, but it's just a way to get comfortable, familiar, and get yourself moving. So we're doing the 45-degree footwork again. That's the female triangle. Right foot goes diagonal to the right side, and then we come home, or left foot goes to the left side when we come home. Now, a little bit more emphasis on this one as opposed to the single stick. Because we have nothing in our hands to really focus on in terms of umbrella blocks or slashes, we want to focus on being able to get there in a transition. Nice and light, no stomping. So if you can notice, you'll hardly hear when I step there. There is no particular stance you need to accomplish. In fact, my back foot is on its toes and my heel is up. But you want to make sure that you don't stomp and stay. And you want to make sure that your hands are up fairly towards the center line, because we're going to be slightly offline. So as much as we can envision that, we're going to do so. So one count, one side. We're going to start on the right side. This is going to be number 1, home, left side, 2, home, 3, home, 4, home, 5, home, 6, home. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go right home, left home. Again, that gallop step, still keeping it nice and light. So we're gonna go right home, left home. 1, shuffle here. 2, notice my hands are switching when I switch sides. 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now we do the next footwork drill that I'm about to show you guys in single stick as well, but we emphasize it again a little bit more in empty hand. So we're gonna use the male triangle. It's more of an arrow. So if you look at that V, you're gonna flip it standing at the point. Opposite foot goes down to opposite side. So if I'm going to my right side, my left foot is stepping back. And the emphasis here is pivoting with our lead foot and our shoulder. To help you get that, we're gonna give a little C motion parry, and then we come home. Okay, so we start on the right side. This is 1, and come home, 2, home, 3, home, 4, home, 5. Not too far, home, 6. And making sure that we're not giving our back when we do this. On a 45, looking almost like we're doing a shoulder roll concept, and we still have vision of our contact or our opponent, okay? And we come home. So now we're gonna try to combine them. We're gonna see how we can use them together, and you can kind of get an idea of where your empty hand is gonna start to come in. So we do incorporate some strikes, not necessarily within the curriculum, because our empty hand is supported by our striking system, which is Kun Tao. It's a version of karate. We do a lot of boxing influence in there. We do a lot of kickboxing influence in there as well. So this kind of merges the two together, if that makes sense. Now, if we're talking about female to male triangle, there's an alternate male triangle. Just watch very carefully. It's very easy to incorporate. If I start to the right side, the idea is I'm slipping a straight punch on a 45 there, dipping my head, going offline. That's half of the movement. Now we're gonna zigzag our way back in using the alternate male triangle, which is more of an intercepting angle. And all I wanna do is take my left foot, bring it in, and pivot back on the line of force. And that's gonna help me throw the cross. Okay, so once again on that same side, I'm stepping with my right foot to transition, to slip, and then I'm gonna use that to pivot into a cross in a left lead or an orthodox stance back onto the center line. That's gonna be 1 count. Then we try it on the other side. Left foot steps, right foot starts zigzagging in, pivot. This is a left hand cross, same concept, and you just shuffle your way back. So we're gonna do a count of 6, starting on the right side. Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, really get your shoulders and hips involved, a little bit of head movement. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, if we flip it around, we're going to use the first male triangle with the alternate male triangle. So, first one is a little bit more defensive, going offline to parry. Second one, more offensive, we're trying to intercept in. When I step on this line and I parry, I'm going to consume that line once again. I take my lead leg, I straighten it out by taking a widening step. When I do that, that allows me to pivot my left hip and shoulder to throw across from that same side. Okay, so it's almost like an offline strike, and then I'd be able to capitalize in that small window. So we step offline, step to widen, strike, and we come back to the peak of the arrow. Other side for 2, parry, step, strike, back to the peak. 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, so you can see with that footwork is a little bit more emphasized on being able to set your weight down a little bit more. If we're gonna throw crosses, hooks, all those good things, we don't wanna do it from a weapon posture. So a lot of the times you still get the hip twist, but you don't have to emphasize it as much because you have the weapon in your hand. And you're a little bit more dynamic, right? The stick is gonna allow you to move a little bit more smooth like so, because your opponent has to worry about the stick. When I just have my hands and feet, I gotta make sure my body is setting up the right way and I'm capitalizing on the power generation in each of these little steps. All right, so next thing is we do some break falls. There's a few that we practice, but the big one that we practice is the backwards break fall. So you can do it in 3 big steps. Normally, we're starting from the ground. I'll show you how that's done. I'm gonna show you one time how we do it standing. This is if you're fairly comfortable with it. So we start off in 3 positions. First count is you stretch your hands out like so. Second count, you're gonna bend your knees. Third count, we're gonna go down to the ground. Our bum's gonna touch the ground slowly first. As I come down here, when my upper back is about to touch the ground, I wanna make sure that I maintain 90 degrees with my legs. My hands are gonna smack out on a 45, and they're gonna come back in. I wanna make sure my chin is tucked so it never touches the ground here, and I should be able to see my toes or see in front. Once I get to this position, I kick to sit back up, and then I stand up in base. We're gonna look at that in a second. So if we do that a little bit more faster, from the top here, 1 count, we're doing all 3 steps. We're here, and then we can sit up and do it again. Now this is what we call the neutral position. This is where we're sitting down here. Our elbows are tucked in, our chin is tucked, we're preparing ourselves for that break fall. This is a great way to introduce this to a lot of beginner students. So I'm gonna create that momentum of the fall by pushing my toes. When I feel my upper back about to touch ground, that's when I do the break fall, kick to sit up, and I can repeat that again. So we're gonna do that 9 more times. Ready? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so that should get us back to this position here. And then we look at standing up in base. Again, for a lot of my beginner students, we break it up in these fractions. But if we were pressed for time, if this is something like more of a review, we would just put it all together. Break falling, standing back up, just as important. Okay, so you're gonna end up leaning to one side or the other. I'll do this side just for the sake of the camera. But you're going to lift up by posting on your right foot, left hand opposite. You're gonna lift that up high enough that you can have clearance underneath. You wanna make sure you don't drag that foot underneath you. Lift and move it. So when I lift this foot up, I'm gonna kick back. 3 points on the ground. 1, 2, 3. I can shield my head, standing up, shuffle back to create distance, and then you can step forward and repeat the process. So we would do that about 10 times. There's a lot more I can do with that, so I'm gonna skip that part for you guys if you feel like you can get that in. If not, stand up as strongly as possible, not as quickly as possible. So by any means that you guys need to do it, the last thing you wanna do is, if you're break falling from up here, break fall like this, and you rock yourself back up like so, because the habit you're gonna develop is number 1, when I break fall and I allow myself to rock, I allow my spine to get stacked, and that's a terrible position to be in if someone is still coming towards me. Number 2, my knees get closer to my face And if there's a lot of momentum pushing me down, my knees might end up hitting my face, smashing my orbital bone, my cheekbone. And those are things I could have prevented by making sure that I stabilize first and I return up on my own will, not off of momentum. And then I decide how I'm gonna stand up. Whether it's technical stand up, whether it's dragging the person down, so on and so forth, you input it from there. All right, so last but not least, this is when we're focusing a lot on framing, we're focusing a lot on entries. We just do a little bit of shadow work. Now this has been something that I've taught in Anastacio Online. Basically what you're doing is you're taking one hand here, let's say that's my left hand, slightly bent, pressuring. The idea is you're gonna press your frame into their collarbone, or the neck area here. I'm gonna come to an elbow and I'm almost gonna sandwich it. So it's not just my elbow swinging to my hand, it's a little bit of both, my hand going to my elbow. Then the hand that just elbowed is gonna rotate from the inside, create another frame on the other side, and then we go to that side there. Okay, so if we're starting with the left hand framing, right hand elbowing, we're gonna do it for a count of 10. And this is 1, frame, 2, frame, 3, frame, 4, frame, 5, frame, 6, frame, 7, frame, 8, frame, 9, frame, 10. We go to our stable stance. And that's essentially how we warm up. The rest of the class is done with the curriculum that we're teaching, that we're focusing on. But that gets our blood pumping. It gets us a little bit more mobile, gets us familiar with the ranges, the angles, and just how to position ourselves, and the importance of knowing how to control our body and not just letting the momentum carry us, not just letting, luck protect us from falling. Very simple things that most people will overlook because we want to focus on punches and kicks and grabs, right? But sometimes we don't think about what happens if I trip, what happens if I fall, what happens if I slip the punch, what do I do from there? And the last thing you want to do is scramble and kind of just go about it. You want to practice those instinctual things. Be more efficient with your body, because right now that's all we got. I want to take a moment to say thank you to our sponsor of the video, which is Tushy. They went ahead and sent us the Tushy 3.0 bidet. Cleanliness in the gym is 100. Home when you're out with friends. So for all you stinky butthole people, don't go to the mats with your stinky buttholes, especially if you're gonna go grapple with them. That's disgusting. Go ahead and hook yourself up with a Tushy bidet. They got all sorts of products. They are affordable, they are minimal, they are great looking, and they're super simple to hook up. So if you guys are interested in grabbing your own pair, you can head to their site, hellotushy.com, and use the promo code Anastacio to save yourself 10%. Once again, I want to thank you guys. Jordy wants to thank you guys. Thank you, Tushy, for sponsoring today's video. All right, everyone, we are T-minus 1 week from the gym physically reopening, hopefully. So we're gonna finish up our online only classes this week and then transition to a phase where we're doing a little bit of both. So with that in mind, I have to go and pick up a new wet dry vacuum, this big guy right here, so that number 1, we can clean the gym. Number 2, we're gonna keep it tidy. And number 3, when we continue to do construction, we gotta make sure that all the debris, the little wood chippings and all that stuff, it's all gone. When we got people back in here, I want it to be as clean as possible. I want it to be maintained, and most importantly, I don't want anyone to be stepping on these crazy things bare feet. I'm super excited to have students back in. The curriculum is already set for March, and then we'll be able to kind of train things that require a little bit more in-depth person explanation or demonstration without us breaking any of the rules. Anyways, guys, I apologize for the lack of outside content. As you guys know, the gym has been locked down for quite some time, and hopefully when things start to reopen, I can diversify the content, but hopefully the tutorials that I've been giving you guys on YouTube has been sufficing for the meantime. So if you guys want additional content, you guys know that's available at anastacioclee.com. But I did want to end the video on this note. I kind of have done a lot of reflecting over the past couple months, and I kind of just thought about how I got here. And so when I was much younger, probably I was 14, 15 at the time, it was my very first job, and I worked at a shoe store called Clark's in the mall. And my district manager, his name is Angelo Russo, he was from Quebec. He came down to train us, to help us open the store. And so this is my very first job. I borrowed bus money from my parents to get to the mall. I just opened a bank account so that I can actually get hired. So I literally have nothing. And during the opening, Angelo says, all right guys, let's go for a break. Let's go to the food court, grab some food. My assumption, because everyone else who was working there, the manager, assistant manager, other workers at the time, they're all much older than me. So I'm like, all right, they got money. So they're gonna go buy food. And this is, mind you, this is the food court. This isn't like we're going to some restaurant. But anyways, we get to the food court. I'm starving. I've been busting my ass. Everyone's buying food, and I said, I'm good. Because deep down, I don't have any money. I felt embarrassed to figure out if it was a company meal or he was just kind of like, all right, let's all go and you're on your own for the next 20 minutes or so. So I felt super embarrassed. I said, no, I'm good. And Angelo actually comes up to me and he goes, Mark, why aren't you buying anything? I told him, you know what, no, I'm okay. And maybe he could sense it in me, but he took the time to stop and say, Mark, you know I'm paying for it, right? And so he personally walked me to whatever store I wanted, made sure he paid for it. In fact, I think he paid out of his own pocket because they didn't accept the company credit card or something. But anyways, that has been so impactful in my life. Things like that can make such a tremendous impact on people's lives. And I think that no matter what kind of career you guys have, especially if you're into the fitness world or service industry, just having a smile on your face, staying positive, and being kind of the glue to people's lives, no matter how simple or complicated someone's issues might be or day-to-day lives, you never really know what kind of impact you have. So I think it's important to, number one, always be grateful to those that provide that for you. A simple thank you is nice. You don't have to buy them food. You don't have to buy them a crazy amount of stuff. If you want to, if that's your means of showing affection, then sure. But being grateful, I think, is a very important thing, not only to people, but to yourself, to the world that you live in, as chaotic as it is. That story kind of pushed me to actually reach out to Angelo just to say thank you to him after all these years. And so actually Angelo is an artist and he's pursuing his own passion as well, which I'm so happy that he's doing. In the links in the description box below, he's working with a bunch of artists from Quebec to Ontario for mental health awareness in kids. And he's got a whole fundraiser and all that good stuff. So if you guys could please, number one, just check it out. If you guys are interested in supporting, again, all the description is below. Give him a follow. He's got great art. He has beautiful pieces for sale or just to watch his art being produced and being showcased on his Instagram. You guys can follow him below as well. So thank you guys. Thank you, Angelo. Thank you, Tushy. And until next time, hopefully you guys are staying safe wherever you are. I'll catch you guys then.